Have you ever wondered why different currencies can have completely different values? Why can $1 be worth more or less depending on the country? At first, it might seem like some currencies are simply stronger than others. But the real answer is much more complicated than that. A currency's value is connected to the economy behind that currency. Every single day, people and businesses exchange currencies across international borders. Banks, companies, tourists, and investors are constantly buying and selling currencies. Think of the global currency market as one enormous marketplace. Currencies are constantly being traded, and their relative prices keep changing. So, what actually determines whether one currency becomes more valuable than another? One of the most important answers is something you've probably heard before: supply and demand. When many people want a particular currency, demand for that currency increases. Investors may compete with each other to purchase that currency, and if the available supply is relatively limited, its price can rise. In simple terms, stronger demand can make a currency more valuable. But the opposite can happen when people suddenly want to sell. Investors may move their money away from one currency and into another. When that happens on a large scale, enormous amounts of capital can move internationally. Money often flows toward countries where investors see better opportunities. So supply and demand are constantly pushing currency values up and down. But why would investors prefer one country's currency over another country's currency? One major reason is the level of interest rates in that country. When a central bank raises interest rates, financial assets can become more attractive. Investors may move money toward that country to earn higher returns. Imagine two banks offering different interest rates on similar investments. If the risks are similar, investors may prefer the bank offering higher returns. The same basic idea can influence international investment decisions. Foreign investors can move huge amounts of capital into a country's financial markets. That increased demand can create additional demand for the country's currency. However, higher interest rates don't automatically mean a stronger currency forever. Another extremely important factor is inflation, which affects what your money can actually buy. Imagine walking into a grocery store and discovering that everything costs more than before. Your shopping basket might contain exactly the same products, but the total price is higher. You open your wallet and realize your money doesn't stretch as far anymore. The same amount of money now buys fewer goods and services. Your once full shopping basket slowly becomes smaller. This is what economists mean when they talk about purchasing power. If prices rise rapidly, each unit of currency can buy less than before. Over time, high inflation can weaken confidence in a currency. So currency value isn't just about exchange rates. Purchasing power matters too. Here's another common misunderstanding about currencies. Bigger numbers don't automatically mean greater value. You might need thousands of one currency to equal just $1. That's partly because currencies use completely different units of measurement. Think about centimeters and meters. Different numbers can represent the same physical distance. Currencies can also be redesigned or redominated, changing the size of their units. That doesn't necessarily change the actual purchasing power of people's wealth. Imagine walking into two different stores using completely different currency systems. The same product could have dramatically different looking price numbers. A pizza might cost 10 units in one country and thousands somewhere else. The number itself doesn't tell you how strong the currency really is. What really matters is how much stuff your money can actually buy. If your money buys lots of goods and services, it has strong purchasing power. But purchasing power can be very different from one country to another. The same amount of money can provide completely different lifestyles in different cities. Housing is one of the easiest examples to understand. In an expensive city, even a small apartment can cost an enormous amount. Meanwhile, the same amount of money might rent a much larger home somewhere cheaper. That's why comparing salaries without comparing living costs can be misleading. Your money has to pay for food, housing, transportation, entertainment, and many other things. Ultimately, purchasing power tells you what your money is actually capable of buying. Another major force influencing currencies is international trade between countries. Every day, countries export products and services to customers around the world. Foreign companies need to pay exporters for those products and services. That means money eventually flows back toward the exporting country. Sometimes, foreign companies must exchange their own currency before making those payments. This creates demand for the currency of the exporting country. But countries also import products, which creates the opposite flow of money. Companies may send money overseas to pay foreign manufacturers and suppliers. Those companies often need foreign currency to complete international transactions. So global trade constantly creates currency demand flowing in both directions. And modern economies are incredibly connected to one another. Ships, airplanes, trucks, banks, and financial markets connect countries every day. You can think of the global economy as one enormous, interconnected network. Currencies constantly move through this network as money changes hands. Goods may travel in one direction while payments move in another. Investors, banks, governments, and businesses all participate in these international flows. Something happening in one major economy can influence markets somewhere else. A change in trade, interest rates, or confidence can spread across borders. Currencies sit right in the middle of many of these international transactions. That's one reason exchange rates can move surprisingly quickly. But investors don't only care about potential returns. They also care about stability. A country's economic and political stability can strongly influence investor confidence. When confidence disappears, investors may quickly move their money elsewhere. Stable economies can make investors feel more comfortable holding their currency. Trust matters because people need to believe their money will retain value. Investors therefore examine inflation, growth, debt, interest rates, and economic conditions. A strong and stable economy can attract investment from around the world. But economic instability can make investors much more cautious. When investors leave, demand for that country's currency can fall. That's why confidence and trust can be incredibly powerful forces in currency markets. So why can one currency have a much higher value than another? Some currencies are widely used and held in international financial markets. Global investors and businesses may use certain currencies for international transactions. Banks can also hold major currencies as part of their foreign exchange reserves. But no single factor determines a currency's value by itself. Interest rates, inflation, trade, investment, supply, demand, and confidence all interact. Think of currency value as a giant economic balancing act. Every economic force pushes and pulls against the others. That's why there isn't one simple answer explaining every exchange rate. Ultimately, a currency's value reflects the economic forces and confidence surrounding it.
So the next time you see an exchange rate, remember that currency value isn't just a number printed on a banknote. It's influenced by supply and demand, inflation, interest rates, trade, investment, and confidence. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting videos about money and economics.